So, a family on a road trip through Texas take a detour that leads them to a bizarre lodge where a mysterious caretaker named Torgo tells them that the master will be coming for them. The master arrives. He leads a weird cult where his brides argue and wrestle to gain his favor. The family find themselves trapped in this evil pagan satanic lodge forever. Now, that may sound like a fairly typical plot for a horror movie in 1966, but Manos, The Hands of Fate, a film produced by insurance and fertilizer salesman Harry Warren, is anything but typical. It holds the distinction of being considered by many as the worst movie ever made. But like other films that over the years have been crowned with that title, movies like The Room, Troll 2, as far back as Plan 9 from Outer Space, these movies have something going for them because we're talking about them all these years later. Anyone who has seen Manos, The Hands of Fate never forgets it. We're so thrilled to welcome one of the stars of that movie, Jackey Neyman Jones. She played Little Debbie in the film, and she has a book out called Growing Up with Manos, The Hands of Fate. Jackey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I feel like anyone who interviews you or even meets you must feel compelled to tell you their story of how they discovered Manos, The Hands of Fate.
Yeah. I mean, not all the time, of course, but yeah, probably.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you my quick story.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think like most people in the 1990s, I saw it as part of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes.
And like most people watching it, we'd never seen this movie or heard about it. Didn't even know it existed, really, until that show. And something strange happened with Manos, The Hands of Fate with me. Obviously, when you're watching the show and the host, Joel Hodgson in this case, and the puppets are cracking jokes, and it's entertaining, and then you seek the movie out and you start to watch it again and again and again, and there is a very strange quality that draws you in to Manos, The Hands of Fate that transcends the lampooning that went on initially. And it sort of lulls you into this odd frame of mind. There's just something unusual and unique about this movie. I don't know if you can speak to this because you're in it, but
yeah.
Did you get a sense maybe at the time you were doing something unusual and unique?
Well, my dad was unusual and unique to begin with. And then he was in theater, and then his art was different as well for where we lived. I adored my dad, and I loved everything he did. I used to love to just sit in his studio and watch him work. You know, he'd make me put on welding goggles when he was welding so I wouldn't burn my eyes. But he let me stay, and he'd take me to the theater, and I was just one of those kids who I knew that theater inside and out, all the back rooms and the light booth, and you know, I explored backstage, and I sat in the audience and watched rehearsals.
And I should clarify for the audience, when you mentioned your father played the master.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
and also he did all the artwork and the props as well. So the painting and Torgo staff and all the hands, the sculptures were his.
Wow.
You know, I don't really have a barometer by which to rate it, but I have certainly noticed that there is something about it, Manos, that transcends other things, and I can't explain it. I've never been able to explain it.
Do you remember how long it took to film the movie?
I believe it was 8 days total. weekends and nights. And so to me, it was the best summer of my childhood, getting to spend that time with my dad and also being the only kid on set.
And the dog in the film was your dog, right?
Yeah, the Wiggly Doberman. The poodle was Hal Warren's dog, he was the writer, producer, and he played my dad. He played the lead.
So did you have any idea that your dialogue was going to be dubbed?
No, I mean, during the filming, I would say my line. I was very shy, and this was my first part. So I'd say my line, and then I'd kind of whisper, "Is that okay?" And I just remember Hal saying a lot throughout the filming, "It'll be fine. We'll fix it in the lab." He said that a lot. At the premiere, nobody bothered to tell the kid. So I was mortified when my mouth opened and the strange voice came out. It was horrible. All the women, 6 of the wives, Maggie, the woman who played my mother, and the kissing teenager in the car. So that's 8 women plus me. Were all dubbed by one woman.
What was the reaction at the premiere of this movie? What was the reaction like?
Oh, wow. Well, it was a full audience, and my dad had us sit, our family, we sat 5th row center to make sure I could see. And so we were truly trapped. And then the lights went down in that 8-minute driving scene. So even before the opening driving scenes were over, the audience was getting restless. You could hear it. They were kind of fidgety and whispering. And then once the movie started, then you heard a lot more laughs and, little more comments.
Right.
Oh, Manos.
So when the premiere finished, after the premiere, everybody just kind of escaped the theater and basically never talked about it again. There wasn't much discussion. And the entertainment writers for the El Paso papers were big fans of my dad because, in fact, in that year, 1966, he won Best Actor of the Year award at the Community Theater as King Henry IV. He always played the lead. And so the entertainment writer was a big fan of his. She really loved him. And they just mercifully kind of let it disappear. They didn't talk about it. So I grew up looking for it, and this is way before the internet. And once I got it, I talked about it to my friends as a kid, and then after I, got out of high school, I started searching for it in film libraries and university libraries, and I just couldn't find it until it showed up on TV in 1993.
And how strange that must have been. Here is this thing you were looking for, and then suddenly it was in everyone's living room.
Well, sort of. I mean, it's a specific group of people, that's for sure. But, these days I find that more and more as I toss it out randomly, have you ever heard of Mystery Science Theater? More people say, well, of course.
Right.
It's become a lot more popular, but yeah, back then, my dad was a fan. He used to watch Mystery Science Theater on the weekends, and then he called me that January day in 1993 and just said, "You'll never believe what I just saw on television." He'd been watching Mystery Science Theater, kind of dozing off, heard some familiar music, and he opened his eyes, and there he was.
I'm going to say this.
It was a shock.
Sure, you are. I'm going to say this. Your dad as the master in that movie, I totally buy it. You know, like there's no suspension of disbelief. He's so good in that. And the fella who, I forget his name now, who played Torgo.
John Reynolds.
Again, totally buy it. That is such a memorable character.
Yeah.
He's like the Renfield to your father's Dracula. You know.
Well, and they were friends, and they had been in theater together. In fact, John was in King Henry the Fourth, and that's the play. Hal was in it. The guy who played the sheriff, Brian Jennings, was in it. So Hal Warren looked around that play, and he saw pretty much everybody he wanted for his script. And then he got all the women from the local Mannequin Manor modeling school.
She will grow up to be a woman.
I like the fact that your father was totally fine with this renaissance in fandom for Manos the Hands of Fate, and he had a lot of fun with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had such a good sense of humor about it, and so did I. I mean, I was just so thrilled to find it. And when I got a copy of it, I watched it, and then I was just happy. I thought that was the end of it. I was just satisfied. I got what I wanted. And then it just took off, and it just kept taking off, and every few years it reaches a peak, and I say, and every time I say, well, that was fun. And I'm ready, I'm satisfied. I was satisfied when I got that bootleg VHS copy. I watched it by myself, and I put it away, and I was happy. And then it took off. And every few years it reaches another plateau, and something else happens. There's been so many projects made. There's comic books, there's coloring books, there's other stories besides my book, and there's a puppet theater. There was a stage production in Portland, a comedy stage production, and I've been fortunate enough to either meet people that I've met almost everybody that's created a project or been part of that project. It's I've just been really just blessed to meet so many incredibly talented people because of this really bad movie.
Oh, but it's so good. It's so good. And you know what? I'll just say this, because I'm an enthusiast for the film. That 8-minute driving sequence, that's what puts you in the trance when you watch the movie.
Yes,
because when you're in it,
I guess it does.
Right, by the time that's over, you're ready for anything, because this is the trip to hell.
Yeah.
This 8-minute sequence. But what I wanted to say is, let's talk about what you have been doing. And you mentioned your book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wrote my book in, I believe it was 2015, which is good because my dad was still alive. There were still a couple people I could find that had been part of the film and to interview. So I wrote my book, and it's called Growing Up with Manos the Hands of Fate, and the subtitle is How I Was the Child Star of the Worst Movie Ever Made and Lived to Tell the Story. And I'm proud to say that last time I looked, it's 4.5 stars on Amazon. So not bad for a book about a bad movie.
And wasn't there also a film as well?
Yes, we let's see, it's been 5 years. We made Manos Returns. And my dad was still alive, so he was able to be part of it. And I starred in it, and that's out. I wasn't prepared enough to tell you where you can find it, but Manos Returns, and it is available online. And I'm really proud of it. We got a really good cast and crew together, and then now I'm working on another project, the Debbie Chronicles. And so it's a whole nother storyline. But I star in that, and it's in production right now, and we hope to get some funding so that we can continue and do some more episodes.
Very cool. And where can people go to catch up with you and all of these various projects?
Let's see. Well, I'm building a website right now, so I'll give you that for. Hopefully, I can get that together here within the next couple of weeks. But that will be Jackey'sManos.com, and that's Jackey with an EY, JACKEY, Manos.com. And that'll probably be the best place, because I do all kinds of things. I'm a professional artist, and I'm teaching classes, art classes, and then the Debbie Chronicles. And honestly, I can't even remember all the things I'm doing right now. It's
Wow.
But I'm on Facebook as well. Let's see, Debbie's Manos, The Hands of Fate. I got, and then Jackie's Art, Jackey with the EY again. Jackie's Art on Facebook. So for the moment, that's probably the best. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting this website together so I can connect people with all the things that I do.
Well, again, I want to thank you for being on the show today, and what a great joy it was to speak with you, one of the stars of one of my favorite cult classics, Manos, The Hands of Fate, and have a great rest of your day.
Oh, thank you so much, and it was a pleasure talking to you.